The mysterious disappearance of Dorothy Arnold. Welcome back, listeners, to Ontario Cold Cases, Canada's True Crime Podcast, where we look into the unsolved mysteries that have haunted investigators and the public for decades. I'm your host, Jay Nickel of Nickel Investigations, and today in Historical True Crime Tuesday, we're stepping back over a century to explore one of New York's most baffling cold cases, the vanishing of Dorothy Arnold. Though this story unfolds in the bustling streets of early 20th century Manhattan, its themes of family secrets, societal pressures, and enduring enigmas resonate across borders and time. We'll stick strictly to the facts drawn from historical records, newspaper accounts, and investigative reports to piece together what we know and what we may never know. If you're new here, remember to subscribe on your favorite platform. And follow us on X at Ontario Cold Cases for updates on episodes and cold case discussions. Let's get into it. Dorothy's background: life of privilege and constraint. Dorothy Harriet Camille Arnold was born on July 1st, 1885 in New York City, into one of the city's wealthiest and most prominent families. Her father, Francis Rose Arnold, was a successful perfume importer, traced his lineage back to passengers on the Mayflower. Her mother, Mary Martha Parks Arnold, came from equally distinguished stock, and Dorothy was the niece of Rufus W. Peckham, U.S. Supreme Court Justice. The Arnolds live in a grand mansion at 108 East 79th Street on the Upper East Side, a symbol of their high social standing. Dorothy was the eldest of 4 siblings, 2 brothers, John and Dan, and a younger sister, Marjorie. She was described as an attractive young woman, about 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighing around 140 pounds, with brown hair often styled in a high pompadour, steady blue-gray eyes, and a healthy complexion. Educated at the prestigious Felton School for Girls in Manhattan, she went on to graduate from Bryn Mawr College in Pennsylvania in 1905, where she studied literature. Dorothy harbored ambitions to become a writer, penning short stories and submitting them to magazines like McClure's. However, her efforts were met with rejection letters, which reportedly disheartened her. Her family, particularly her controlling father, dismissed her literary aspirations as frivolous, mocking her for them and insisting she focus on finding a suitable husband from their social circle. Despite her family's expectations, Dorothy led a double life. She was involved in a secret romantic relationship with George C. Griscom Jr., a 42-year-old engineer from a wealthy Pittsburgh family, whom she had met during her college years. Her parents strongly disapproved of Griscom, viewing him as unsuitable, older, not from New York high society, and perhaps too adventurous for their tastes. In September 1910, just months before her disappearance, Dorothy pawned some of her jewelry for about $500 to finance a secret week-long rendezvous with Griscom in Boston. They stayed at separate hotels but met daily, registering under aliases. After returning home, she maintained contact with him through a private post office box, the Grand Central Station branch, keeping their correspondence hidden from her family. By late 1910, tensions were mounting. Griscom had departed for a family trip to Europe in November, and Dorothy's writing rejections continued. Yet those who knew her described her as spirited, independent, and in good spirits in the days leading up to December 12th. The fateful day, December 12th, 1910. It was a cold, crisp Monday morning in Manhattan, temperatures hovering around freezing, with a light dusting of snow from recent weather. Around 11 o'clock a.m., Dorothy left her family's home at 108 East 79th Street. She told her mother she was going shopping for an evening gown to wear to her sister Marjorie's upcoming debutante ball. Dorothy declined her mother's offer to join her, saying she preferred to shop alone. She was dressed fashionably for the area, a long blue serge coat over a matching skirt, a black velvet hat adorned with 2 silk roses, and a black feather, black suede gloves and shoes, a fox fur muff, and lapis lazuli earrings with a matching ring. She carried a large black fox muff and had between $25 and $30 in cash, equivalent to about $800 today, left behind her more valuable jewelry, clothes, and passport. Dorothy's movements that day were pieced together from witness accounts and receipts. She walked south along Fifth Avenue. Around noon, she stopped at Park and Tilford Candy Store at the corner of 59th Street and Fifth Avenue, where she purchased a half-pound of chocolates, charged it to her family's account. The clerk noted nothing unusual about her demeanor. She then continued walking nearly a mile and a half further south to Brentano's bookstore at 5th Avenue and 27th Street. There she bought a book titled An Engaged Girl's Sketches by Emily Calvin Blake, again charging to the family account. Just before 2 p.m., outside the bookstore on the corner of 27th Street and 5th Avenue, Dorothy bumped into her friend Gladys King. They chatted briefly about mutual friends and an upcoming party. Dorothy mentioned she was meeting her mother for lunch at the Waldorf Astoria and planned to walk home through Central Park to get some fresh air. Gladys later described Dorothy as cheerful and in good spirits, with no signs of distress. Dorothy waved goodbye twice, once casually, then again emphatically, and headed east toward Central Park. That was the last confirmed sighting of Dorothy Arnold. She never arrived at the Waldorf Astoria, and there is no evidence she actually shopped for a dress that day. She simply vanished in the crowded streets of midday Manhattan, one of the busiest places on earth, at the sunniest hour of the afternoon. The aftermath, a family's desperate silence. Dorothy's absence was noticed that evening when she failed to return home for dinner, a highly unusual occurrence for the punctual young woman. Her family grew concerned, but chose not to alert the authorities immediately, fearing scandal and unwanted publicity that could tarnish their reputation. When a friend called the house inquiring about Dorothy, her mother lied, saying Dorothy had gone to bed with a headache. Instead, the Arnolds turned to trusted friends and family lawyer John S. Keith. For 6 weeks, Keith conducted a private investigation. He checked hospitals, morgues, and prisons in New York, Philadelphia, and Boston. He interviewed Dorothy's friends and Bryn Mawr classmates and searched for any sign of elopement or accident. Finding nothing, he recommended hiring professional detectives. Meanwhile, George Griscom Jr., upon learning of the disappearance from Italy, came to shock and denial of involvement. He returned to the U.S., placed newspaper ads pleading for Dorothy to contact him, and hired his own detective, Roger O'Mara, who also came up empty. Griscom cooperated with investigators, revealing their secret relationship and the Boston trip, but insisted he had no knowledge of her plans. It wasn't until January 25, 1911, 45 days after her disappearance, that the Arnolds finally reported Dorothy missing to the New York Police Department. Police Captain John H. Ayers led the official investigation, coordinating with Pinkertons and distributing thousands of missing persons flyers with Dorothy's photos. Searches of Central Park, including draining reservoirs, yielded nothing. International alerts were issued, but leads dried up. The Pinkerton investigation, a nationwide and transatlantic hunt. After 6 weeks of private searching by family lawyer John S. Keith yielded nothing. No sightings in hospitals, morgues, jails across New York, Philadelphia, and Boston. The Arnolds turned to the renowned Pinkerton National Detective Agency. At the time, Pinkertons were America's most famous private investigators, with a storied history dating back to the Civil War, and a reputation for thorough, discreet, high-profile work. The family, flush with resources from Frances Arnold's perfume import business, gave them carte blanche, unlimited funding to pursue every angle without regard for cost. Multiple Pinkerton operatives, exact numbers unknown, but reports indicate a team was assigned, descended on New York. They immediately mailed descriptive circulars, detailed flyers with Dorothy's photograph, physical description 5 feet 4 inches tall, 140 pounds, brown hair and a pompadour, blue-gray eyes, stylish attire on the day she vanished, and the circumstances of her disappearance to police departments across the United States. They offered a $1,000 reward, roughly $33,000 to $34,000 in today's dollars, for credible information leading to her whereabouts or recovery. In New York, agents conducted a systematic sweep. They revisited and expanded on key checks of area hospitals, sanitariums, and places Dorothy frequented, shops, social haunts, her Bryn Mawr contacts. They interviewed dozens of her friends, former college classmates from Bryn Mawr, and acquaintances, probing for any hint of her plans, mood, or secret troubles. No one had seen or heard from her since that chance meeting with Gladys King. Discovering literature for transatlantic ocean liners in Dorothy's room, found by Keith the day after she vanished, the Pinkertons zeroed in on the elopement theory. They scoured marriage license records in New York and surrounding areas for any entry under her name or aliases. No match. Suspecting she might have fled Europe, perhaps with a lover or to start anew, agents were dispatched overseas. They boarded and searched incoming steamships from New York ports, scrutinizing female passengers matching her description. Several women were questioned and cleared, but Dorothy was nowhere to be found. They also coordinated with George Griscom Jr.'s side of things, reviewing his cooperation, secret correspondence, and the Boston trip, while ruling out direct involvement since he was abroad in Italy at the time. Despite exhaustive efforts, thousands of leads chased, interviews conducted, circulars distributed nationwide in international searches, the Pinkertons came up empty. No solid trace, no body, no confirmed sighting. Frustrated but professional, the detectives ultimately advised Frances Arnold that the case had grown too large and public for private handling alone. They urged him to involve the New York City Police Department for broader resources and publicity, which could generate fresh tips. Reluctantly, Arnold agreed, leading to the January 25, 1911 press conference, where the disappearance finally went public. Even after the NYPD took over, the Arnolds continued funding Pinkerton efforts in parallel for some time, but the trail remained cold. Frances Arnold reportedly spent up to $250,000 overall in searches, a staggering sum equivalent to millions today, much of it through Pinkertons and related inquiries. Yet his daughter was never located. Up next, theories and rumors. What happened to Dorothy? Theories and rumors. What happened to Dorothy? Over the years, numerous theories have emerged, fueled by rumors, hoaxes, and unverified claims. Here's a breakdown of the most prominent ones, based on historical accounts. Number 1. Elopement or voluntary disappearance. Some believed Dorothy ran away to marry Griscom or pursue her writing career independently, escaping her family's control. Pinkertons initially pursued this, checking ships and borders. Griscom's ads and searches suggested he thought she was alive. However, no evidence of her resurfacing ever appeared, and her lack of funds or planning argues against it. Number 2. Suicide. Dorothy's recent story rejections might have led to despair. A note in her room hinted at disappointment. Quote, failure. But friends said she seemed upbeat. No body was found, and suicide in busy Central Park seems unlikely. Number 3. Botched abortion. One persistent theory posits Dorothy was pregnant from a relationship with Griscom and sought an illegal abortion, dying from complications. Rumors in 1916 claimed a doctor confessed on his deathbed to operating on her in a West 52nd Street house run by, quote, Dr. C. Meredith, with her body allegedly incinerated or buried. Police investigated and dismissed it as a hoax. 1914 claim for dying in a Pittsburgh maternity hospital was also debunked. Number 4. Accident or amnesia. Theories include slipping on ice, suffering a head injury, and ending up in a hospital with amnesia. Her father believes she might have been murdered and dumped in Central Park's reservoir, but dregs found nothing. Number 5. Murder or kidnapping. Abduction in broad daylight on Fifth Avenue is improbable, but some speculated foul play in Central Park. No ransom demands or evidence supported this. Number 6. Hoaxes and sightings. Post-disappearance, false leads abounded. Sightings in Europe, claims of her living under aliases. Even a 1960 convict alleging he buried her body in a New Jersey cellar, which was searched, nothing found. All proved baseless. Dorothy's father, Francis, publicly stated in 1911 that he believed she was dead, possibly murdered. He passed away in 1922, her mother in 1928, both without answers. Dorothy was declared dead in absentia sometime in the 1920s, though no exact date is recorded. Her estate was distributed accordingly. Wrapping up, the disappearance of Dorothy Arnold remains one of the most perplexing unsolved cases in American history. In an era without modern forensics or surveillance, a young woman from a prominent family vanished without a trace, leaving behind a trail of questions that investigators, from Pinkertons to police, couldn't answer. Was it a desperate bid for freedom? A tragic accident? Or something more sinister? We'll likely never know. If this case sparks any thoughts, or if you have any tips on similar historical mysteries, reach out via any of our social media profiles or email us. Until then, stay curious and stay safe, because every case deserves answers, and every victim deserves justice. Subscribe now to Ontario Cold Cases, Canada's True Crime Podcast. Episodes available wherever you get your podcasts.